This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we explain why a building that could collapse is not a covered collapse, and why a fairly debatable claim defeats a charge of bad faith. The case dealt with multiple issues that have resulted when, on May 7, 2019, Saddletree Holding, LLC filed an insurance claim for damages sustained to its building located in Upton, Wyoming. The building was used as a community events center. Following a winter of heavy snowfall, Saddletree discovered that the building's steel support columns had buckled 2 or more inches, and the roof had deflected downward approximately 6 inches. The building was insured by Evanston, and defendant Markel was the claims processor. In a lawsuit entitled Saddletree Holding, LLC versus Evanston, Markel, filed in the United States Court, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeal, on April 30, 2024, ruled on the breach of contract and bad faith suit filed by Saddletree. The claims were originally denied for damages Saddletree claimed to its building in eastern Wyoming. Saddletree sued, seeking damages for breach of contract, substantive bad faith, and procedural bad faith. The district court entered judgment in favor of Evanston and Markel and dismissed the case with prejudice. Saddletree, of course, appealed. During claims processing, the defendants retained an engineer who inspected the building. Defendant's engineer determined that the damage was the result of the building's inadequate design and/or construction. Evanston disclaimed coverage pursuant to a policy exclusion precluding damage caused by hidden or latent defects or any quality in property that causes it to damage or destroy itself. Saddletree did not contemporaneously contest the denial. Instead, it sued its builder, Dreams Carports and Buildings, Inc. To support that suit, Saddletree requested that the defendants turn over their engineering report. They declined, so Saddletree retained its own engineer who, quote, determined that the original design is deficient, close quote. Saddletree's engineer also noted, quote, it is very fortunate the structure has not collapsed based on the levels of deficiencies determined, close quote, thereby agreeing with the statement made by the insurer's expert. On March 23, 2021, the district court entered default judgment against Dreams and awarded Saddletree over $2.2 million in damage, a judgment that Saddletree is still attempting to collect. The district court entered summary judgment for the defendants on all of Saddletree's asserted claims. Analyzing the issues, the 10th Circuit noted that Saddletree did not dispute that its claim of breach fell outside the policy's 2-year limitations period. Instead, it argued that defendants were either stopped from raising limitation defense or waived it. That argument failed for at least 2 reasons. One, it is directly contradicted by the record. Saddletree testified it had no idea what it would have done differently had it received defendant's engineering report sooner. That makes sense, since its own report provided all the information it needed to pursue its collapse theory against the defendants within the limitations period. 2. Saddletree did not identify any authority indicating that the defendants had a duty to provide their engineering report, and absent an affirmative duty to provide the report, the defendants did not act inappropriately in refusing to provide it, and that refusal did not lead to estoppel since they got their $2 million verdict against the builder. Defendants were entitled to rely on the policy's 2-year limitations period. The district court therefore correctly entered summary judgment for the defendants. Although the opinion could have stopped there, the court went on to deal with the claims of substantive bad faith and advised that the test used in determining whether a claim was denied in bad faith is an objective one, which questions whether the validity of the denied claim was not fairly debatable. A claim is fairly debatable when a reasonable insurer would have denied or delayed payment of benefits under the facts and circumstances. If a realistic question of liability does not exist, the insurance carrier is entitled to reasonably pursue that debate without exposure to a claim of violation of its duty of good faith and fair dealing. In pursuing that debate, an insurer is entitled to rely on the conclusions of independent experts unless there is a showing that there was collusion between the experts and the insurer, or that the experts knowingly made false reports. By the policy's term, coverage does not apply to any building that is standing, even if it's cracking, bulging, sagging, bending, or leaning. Defendant's own expert provided a supplemental report on March 17, 2022, which opined, quote, "The yielding and buckling occurred gradually as snow accumulated on the roof and was not an instantaneous or abrupt failure. And because it is fairly debatable whether the building collapsed for purposes of coverage, and because defendants were entitled to rely on their expert engineering report in making their coverage determination, the insurer acted properly and not in bad faith. So defendants' conduct did not constitute procedural bad faith as a matter of law, and because Saddletree failed to identify recoverable damages necessary to sustain its claim, therefore the Tenth Circuit concluded as a matter of law that the insurer's conduct failed to exhibit the egregious level of misconduct typifying bad faith. In my opinion, the Tenth Circuit could have rejected the appeal on the failure to file suit before expiration of the private limitation of action provision alone. Regardless, it also dealt with the claims of bad faith and breach of contract to eliminate all of Saddletree's claims. Saddletree has a judgment against the builders of the structure and only sued when it found it could not collect the default judgment. But its default judgment established that it was a fairly debatable claim whether they had any right to money from the insurer. This video was adapted from my blog, Zalma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zalma.com/blog. You can subscribe and gain notice of every blog posting, usually 5 or 6 a week, and access to the more than 4,750 blog postings. You can also please tell your friends and colleagues about the blog and this video and let them also subscribe. And I would appreciate it if you do watch the video, if you click on the like button on YouTube and the thumbs up button on rumble.com. And if you're interested in further detail about insurance, insurance claims, insurance law, and insurance fraud, please consider for a very small fee subscribing to my Substack publication. Thank you. Thank you again for your attention.